I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
Hey guys, it's Charlie from Confessions of a Business Owner here, and today I am very fortunate to be joined by Peter Stewart. This is an episode I'm really looking forward to. The confession has something that I've thought about a lot in my own life. So thank you so much for joining me today, Peter. How are you?
Thanks, Charlie. I'm really good. Glad to be on board.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I've got a really good feeling about it. So before we get into the almighty confession, I wanted to just really open this one up and give people some context. So if you can you please tell us a little bit about your business?
So I own a conveyancing business based in Albury, small town at the southern of New South Wales. So for most people that don't know what conveyancing is, I do all the legal work for when you transfer and buy and sell properties. So even though I'm based in the small regional city of Albury, it's all across nationally that I act for clients.
Oh, fantastic. And how did you end up in conveyancing?
Well, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a lawyer, thanks to Tom Cruise and his movie, The Firm, that decided when I was 16.
Great.
And yeah, and then after a couple of years of actually studying law while I was working full time, I very quickly discovered it's not as glamorous as Hollywood would make out. And there were arms of the law that I really didn't want to work in, and that pushed me into being in property law rather than away from criminal and family law, which isn't as glamorous as what is portrayed by the movies.
Are you meaning to tell me that if I started a law firm, it wouldn't be like Suits?
Man, I wish. I mean, I do encourage my staff to dress like Suits. You know, the women, they dress really fashionable. But other than that, no. The early hours, yes, maybe, but that's about it.
Oh, it's funny. That could be nearly a whole episode in itself, but how things are portrayed online or in TV shows versus how they really are, I think is often very, very different. Like the one, law firm is definitely one, and then the other one is working in a hospital. So like Grey's Anatomy or something like that. I'm very convinced that's not what it's really like at all.
No, definitely not. And if I worked with Harvey Specter, there would be no work done. I can guarantee that much.
I feel like that guy would have a lot of pressure on himself just to be pulling out one-liners in everyday life.
I feel like he has a lot of pressure on himself just to look that good every day.
It's a big role. It's a big role. Now, we're going to get into the confession of the day. And I'm, as I said, a little bit excited by this because I think a lot of people, myself included, have thought similar things at some point. So if you can, it's your moment to come on and confess.
All right. So my business owner confession is simply that I wasn't successful until I became unapologetically me. So it wasn't until I stood out from behind my brand, put my personality out there and went, you know what, this isn't working for me. This is who I am. That was the key to my success. And that's really my confession.
Amazing. Now, did you want to tell us the story? How did this come to be?
So when I started my business, I had worked in law firms, managed law firms since leaving high school. And I studied my tertiary qualifications by correspondence while I worked full time. So I already had this culture built into me about how law firms should be, how we should do things. And when I started my own business, I started being what I thought everybody else wanted, what I thought clients wanted, and what had inbred in me that culture for so many years and that everybody did. And it really didn't sit with my core values. So not only was I trying to be something that I'm not, I was trying to be cold and so professional that people couldn't open up. I was using language that people couldn't understand. They're the things that come through on that old-fashioned kind of men's club with the encyclopedias behind you. And I had no real connection with my clients. Now, the problem with that is if I'm doing the same thing as everybody else, I don't have a point of difference. And of course, we had the financial crisis in the property market, and a lot of my work was being dictated by the property market. So the fluctuations and the ebbs and flows of what was happening out there was dictating how much work I was getting along with everybody else. But if you want to be successful, you can't always rely on what's happening out there, if that makes sense. And that's why I went, something has to change. And it wasn't until I really embraced who I was, not in a personal and private different sector, but just brought them all as one and out there. That's when things really started to flourish. People felt like they knew me, they could relate to me. And I really, which might sound cliche, put myself in their position. I mean, people are scared. They're overwhelmed when they buy property and they want someone to connect to. So by bringing my personality, and that's everything, quirkiness, I really love fashion. I brought that into the office, the color scheme, my hair. I mean, I couldn't even have my hair in a law firm. So it was all of those things that really then has seen the business really flourish. And we're not now dictated to by the property market because we've still got that steady flow of income coming no matter what. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And I love this confession. Now, in confession to the confession, I read the confession before the show, so I knew what was coming. But nonetheless, I could relate heavily to this, as I mentioned. And for me, and I wonder if you feel the same way, I think I spent my first few years in business trying to be someone else, only to realize I just needed to be me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I knew I wanted to do things differently, but I just didn't know how far I could push the boundary. So to give you an example, I mean, I started by having eggplant as my colour, and that was like, whoa, eggplant, all first blue. And it started really small, and I kind of got on the team. And, as I said, with the ebbs and flows, in the first year I did what everybody did, and I had a cash flow crisis because property market wasn't happening, and I needed to change. And I think it also comes back to the public perception of trust. If I'm trying to be something that doesn't align with my core values, so if I'm being standoffish, I'm not opening up to people, I'm not using language that I understand but they don't understand, they're not trusting me. And so I'm not being who I am, they're not trusting me, and that work isn't flowing back through as well. So there's some key things there that if you put your personality out there on the line, it really can pay dividends back.
I agree a lot with that.
Yeah. I mean, you do really need to be prepared for the backlash too. You've got to have that 95% of people are probably going to love you, but man, there's 5% of people that you are just going to annoy.
Well, if you don't have your haters, I don't think you're trying hard enough. And even on this show, we get some haters every now and again and some interesting comments on Facebook and YouTube, but that comes with the game. And I think that's what we need to look towards in this. So one of the things I want to, I suppose, dig a little bit more into from you is it sounds to me that when we try to be like other businesses, we really don't give people a chance to, I suppose, appeal to us. And I think you nailed something really, really well in that when you were like these other, I suppose you would call it old boys club, mahogany room law firms, you weren't giving people a reason to work with you. And then since making that change and being a relatable brand and someone that has kind of gone through with, was an exponential kind of change. So I want to look at what kind of result turned from here. Did you find that all of a sudden you were able to get, I suppose, more leads easily? Was that how things turned?
Well, first of all, I'll go to price. So if you're being like everybody else, you've got to charge like everybody else. And people can only compare you and your competition on price because you're not providing anything different to your competition. So that was the number one reality hit where I don't want to be the bargain basement, but if I had to charge the same as everybody else in town because I'm no different. So by creating that, I was able to now I charge my price and that's it. I don't price match. I don't discount unless you're an existing client. So that's the number one thing because no one else is me. No one else can provide what I can do. So I brought that authenticity to be able to bring value to what I provide. Obviously, you've got to back that up with what you do. Yeah, exactly. But, that's a real interesting thing. Like if someone calls you and you're the same as everybody else, what have you got to show for yourself? They're just comparing you on price. So that's the number one thing. In regards to leads and referrals, by becoming myself, a lot of my work, I will say, is referral, client referral, and in our industry, a huge part of my work is something like 40% from referrals from professionals and 50% is repeat and existing clients. So to give you an idea, referral is key.
Very important for you to look after your customers in those.
Exactly. But becoming myself, and providing and doing what becomes natural to me, helping people, providing the knowledge. So I provide people with my, YouTube channels with the how, but then they pay me to see the why. By doing that, people just became more interested, and it was that created the referrals itself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's another thing you've done really well is put yourself out there. I don't know many conveyancers that would have gone to the same level with personal brand, content, and things like that as well. Has that played a big part in bringing your own version out?
Yeah, huge. And this is another key to other people. I mean, I'm now branching into other areas of residual income, podcasts, ebooks, keynote speaking. I do mentoring for small business, things like that. Beforehand, they just weren't available. You were a bit of a closed book in your own little environment. And I've also now been able to really try and branch into the Sydney CBD market for conveyancing as well. And if I didn't put myself out there, those opportunities just aren't available. And people are busy. People just don't have time. They want to jump online. They want to see you and see if they like you or not before they make that contact. So it gives people the time to do that at midnight when they're lying in bed, and get to know you before they make that decision.
I honestly believe if you're in business right now and you're not building your personal brand and uniqueness, if you will, that's the word I'm going to use. So you're not showing why you're different and why you're unique or why anyone would want to work with you. I think in the next 5 years, business is going to be very tough for you. So I think you've done a great job in taking the initiative and kind of getting in front of this. And to anyone listening to this episode, take this as a hint. Now is the time. A personal brand and business brand are more important than ever. I think have becoming the lead ways in how we do business.
And I think key to that is there's no personal brand and business brand anymore. They're the same. People don't buy services anymore, they buy people. So that was the hugest part. Instead of me promoting, we provide this service and we're going to do that. This is me. This is what I do. And that's been a huge difference. It's recognizing now that people do buy people. They don't buy services anymore. They want to know me, and that's what they buy. So in saying that, I still have, 6 staff that work for me, but the work flows through that way. And you really need to step out from that brand name and be the person behind it. Have a personal Instagram that's linked to your business, because people want to connect. They want to feel like they're part of it and that they have control, they have that empowerment.
I would agree. I really do. I think you've nailed some really important stuff here. And for anyone out there that's not doing this type of stuff, I think they should consider it. But you've just given me the best segue into my next topic around teams. So we're going to jump into this one from here.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was very unique to your space is that you've built an all-female team to go with you. So I wanted to ask you, why did you do this? And how have you gone about building your team and getting the right people on the bus, so to speak?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I will point out I'm not sexist. I don't employ people just because they're female. If a male applied for the role and they were the best person, they would come on board. But at this point in time, the female fits. So, I have been attacked a couple of times thinking that I was sexist, but it's not that at all. So I'll point that out. Now, secondly, when I employ people, we've all learnt things the hard way. I employ on personality and what they can do for the team, not what experience they have. Because with my mentoring and how I build the business, I try and do it very different to everybody else. So someone with too much experience hasn't worked for me, because you're trying to change these old habits. So I look at the personality, what they can bring to the team, if they will fit in with us, and that's what I employ on. And to give you an idea, I've got 3 employees that have never worked for anybody else, and I got them straight from school, put them through their tertiary qualifications and groomed them that way. And that would be the biggest key that I would say is employ people for their personality, their values, rather than what they can bring at the first day. Don't think about what they can bring day one. Think about what they can bring 6 months down the track.
I think that's an amazing mindset. And I particularly I'm a really big fan of hiring people early on and developing them. I really am. I agree with you that when you bring on someone with experience, it may not be the best experience.
Yeah.
A lot of work has to be done.
Especially if you're like me, where you're just trying to be, pushing the envelope every time, and you're trying to change the way that our industry's done. If you get someone too high up, they got too much opinion, and good for them, but not in my business.
I like that approach. I really do, because development roles, I think, bring out our strongest team. My team members that have done the best over the years have been the ones that have been in a bit greener and developed with the company. So I like that as well. I think it's very cool. Now, I wanted to look at another angle in this as well, of once you've got good people, you've obviously got to retain them. Retaining staff is very important to a business. Nothing will cost a business more than churning of staff. Do you do anything specifically to keep your people and keep them engaged and happy with you?
I'm so sorry, your phone cut out. Can you say that one question again?
Well,
sorry, went just halfway through it. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, good. This podcast is one of the things where we just roll with it.
Sorry. It just went. I heard you say, you said something about retaining staff, and then the rest I lost.
Well, on the topic of team still, I wanted to know if you put anything into retaining your people and keeping them happy and engaged. So is there anything you particularly do in that?
Yeah, 100%. So what's really important to me is personal development. And I learned that the hard way, is how much it made me grow as a person. So I have monthly personal development workshops for my staff in business hours, and I bring a company in and they work with them, and I'm not there. It's the staff only. So last week they did personality profiling, and they all learned what type of deep sea creature they were and what makes them react in certain situations, so that they could identify why one of their team members might say something else, but also helps them identify why a client makes something. So they're really fun and interactive. Another thing that I like to do is we do one-on-one yoga and meditation, because it's such a stressful industry. And the staff weren't too sure about that to start off with, but now we all go, and within 10 minutes they're all lying and snoring their heads off, loving it. So just by giving back a little bit, obviously I pay them all above award wages, but I demand hard work. So none of them have to work overtime, and I'm super flexible. If you're a mum, I get it. You can't do things 9 to 5. Why don't you work 10 till 6? Why don't you, I get it. So being flexible, providing professional development and personal development, even though they might not think that they need it, and just some little extras like a yoga or a lunch once a month, those things like that, make them come to work, and their 8 hours are power hours. They don't muck around. So give to them and they will give back.
That is a fantastic approach. I much do something similar, although not entirely the same, but I think you've nailed it. It's like you're invested in your people, a great environment, and catering to their needs. My finding is most people are up for hard work. Most people actually want to be a part of something and create something awesome and kick some ass. It's the environment that facilitates that. I don't know about you, but I had a job and it was really boring, and it actually drove me nuts how boring it was. Like, I wanted to do something more exciting.
And on that note, some personal development that I do with the mentors that I come and speak to the staff, they tell the staff and explain about how they are on this growth journey with me, with my business. So it's not just me building this empire. They are part of the team that does it as well. And, when I talk to them about what our missions and visions are, we sit down and we have a chat and say, okay, gang, so this is where we're going next. This is our next goal. This is what we're going to do to get there, and involve them in that process. That's
fantastic as well. I really like that, bringing the team together. Some really great insights there, and I hope the listeners of the show can draw something from that. But I want to shift topics again, because we've got limited time remaining in this episode, and I couldn't resist but bring this into the equation. So I've got to give you some context before I ask the questions. A very good friend of mine, we had a conversation, and we have agreed that we think athletes make better business owners. We sincerely believe that if you were brought up in sport, or you participated in any club-like environments to compete, then you will do better as a business owner. Now, you've had a really successful background in track cycling and cycling overall, and in fact sponsor a women's cycling team at the moment, I believe also. Do you feel being an athlete gave you an advantage in business?
100%. The characteristics and personality traits that you develop to be successful in sport, you transfer to business. And a classic example of this is when I opened my business, I thought I could do both, and I couldn't. because I couldn't have enough passion and commitment to both at the same time. It has to be one or the other, which goes to show how strong those components are in your life to be successful. So I gave away cycling and worked on the business, which I was happy with at the time. But drive, being consistent, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but just getting shit done. That you just got to get up and you just got to do it, and you've got to want it. So sometimes people need to think of their business as the Olympics. Like, what is your end goal? Because if you're just getting up every day and doing the same stuff, you're not going forward, you're going backwards. And it's the same with if you're bike racing. Every day you would get out of bed because you know full well your competitor's getting out of bed. And if you don't go ride 5 hours in the rain, they are. So it's those simple. And another thing is people, I know you have got limited time, but people, you have a coach. If you're a very good athlete, you have to have a coach. People that think they can coach themselves are stupid. We all know that. But the same goes for business. You need to have a mentor. The best people in the world have mentors. If you don't have a mentor because you think you know it all, you're wrong. And it's the same with, if you think about that, synonymous with being an athlete as well. There's so many things there that are synonymous. Even, sorry, you've got me excited. I'm getting off track. Even showing up for yourself. If you're a business owner, you still need to be eating properly. You still need to be making sure that you get sleep, even though you're not being an athlete, because you need to show up for yourself and show up for your staff. So it's that showing up and that drive that creates success, creates the team behind you that gets you to your end goal in business, which is your Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a few more, and I'll throw some into the equation. 100% agree with the ones you mentioned. But the other ones that came up strongly for me is athletes understand the importance of training. They don't just do the event. And I think too many business owners are just doing the event. There's zero training involved.
And when you train, just quickly, when you train, every single training session had a purpose. You didn't just go ride 50Ks for no reason. It had a purpose. And it should be the same in business. Today I'm going to do this, and this is the reason why I'm doing that to achieve this. It's exactly the same principles.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next one is delayed gratification. Like, as you used in the reference to the Olympics, is like, or even myself when I look back on other events I've trained for, is like complete eye on the prize, willing to go through enormous amounts of pain or hours on the bike or uncomfortable moments to achieve that. Where I think in the business world, a lot of people are very like reactive, responsive. If it didn't work today, I'll give up. Yeah.
And in the business world, people often are too focused on their competition rather than on themselves. If you're an athlete, you know what your competition's doing, but you know at the end of the day, you are going to lose because of you. So same in business, don't focus on your competition and don't attack them as a form of gaining your own business. Focus on yourself. Yeah, that's something that I see a lot of in our industry is people just being responsive to what's going on around them and not focusing on themselves and doing that end goal as well. So I truly believe that top-level athletes can be amazing business owners and very good employees. Just because they've been out of the workforce, I would employ one like that.
Well, I'm not sure if we're allowed to discriminate on that. So we'll just say maybe we will do this. But I completely agree. If I was looking at a resume for someone and I could see they were an athlete, it would be a tick in the box for me. It'd be something I'd look for as an attribute and qualities I really enjoy. And even things like working in a team. So it's like if you've been on a team, you're already developing those leadership skills. Also, a reason why I'll probably make my kids play sport is because these are qualities that I think are very valuable to develop.
Yeah, and communication skills.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to shift topics again here because there's something I want to ask you on this. Like you strike me as a person who's ambitious and heading towards bigger things constantly. What's next for you? What are you heading towards?
So I've got a new website launching soon. It might be launched by the time you put this podcast out. And that's going to be speaking a lot more about some of the keynote speaking that I'm going to be bringing out. And you've seen a little glimpse of that today. It's something that I've become so passionate about, helping small business owners, because small business owners, you've got to be the salesperson, the marketer, the accountant, the business planner. It wasn't like that when I first opened. It was just, things have shifted. So keynote speaking, I definitely want to break into the Sydney market a lot more, and create that brand awareness there as well. I do have a good presence there, but it's never enough. And down the track, I'm working on some ebooks at the moment and a few things like that. But let's just say there's some things I'm not ready to spill on just yet. But there's definitely things in the plan, and if I'm comfortable, I'm uncomfortable. I always need to be doing something.
Oh, fantastic. I love that idea or that methodology. If we're too comfortable, then something needs to change.
Yeah, exactly.
So where's the best place for people to see what you're getting up to?
Oh, socials, anywhere. I've got Instagram, business, personal, same, Facebook, website, YouTube channel, anything at all. And if you want to just reach out and say g'day, and look, if you want to reach out and ask me a question, you're a business owner and you're just starting out, ask me a question, yeah? Because if I didn't have mentors when I first started, I wouldn't be where I am today learning as well. So reach out, get on my social medias, meet my dog Gizmo. He's over everything as well. Create your brand, just make it happen.
Oh, fantastic. Now, guys, we will put links in the show notes around this, but straight up, you can go to Peter's website, peterstewart.com. Is it .au or is it just
Yes,
.com?
.com.au. Aussie.
Absolutely. Now, that's it for this episode, Peter. Thank you so much for joining me on today's show, and hopefully people will come and check out what you're getting up to, because I think you've got a big and exciting future ahead of you. So thank you for being on the show. That's
Thank you
for this episode today.